I'm going to show you how I pull comps. And I know everybody kind of does them a little bit different. Well, I mean, we all pretty much do them similar, but different. You got some examples? Oh, maybe. I'm going to start with mine first.
She doesn't work for free.
Well, I know I have a client asking me, is this the right price on my house? I'm like, hold on, let me get the whole class. We'll put our brain on that. So we might come back to you. Hey, Trish. Come on in. You're just on time, just in time. All right. So we are going to be looking at a particular address and pull some comps. This is a real life scenario because, like I said, I have one of my old clients or past client who found a valuation of his home somewhere. He sent it to me and he's going, "Is this right?" And I'm like, I never know if that's a good question or a bad question. I'm like, do you like the value or do you not like the value? When you add, it's just an email. So I thought, okay. So I was going to do another house that I just picked randomly. And I thought, okay, I like this house. I actually know this house. So let's talk about it. Here is the house. I just printed the MLS from the last time it sold. And if you want to pull it up on your own MLS, you can. Yep. Because sometimes it's cool to work along. Let's see. Follow along, that's the word. So. And I was wanting to make sure, because sometimes I've taught this class and I randomly picked an address that didn't have a whole lot of comps for it. And that made a real interesting class. So I made sure that because sometimes that will happen too, but that's not necessarily what we're trying to do is pick a hard one. Pulling comps is something that obviously we're going to need to do if we're going to work with buyers sellers for sure, because we need to list the house, but also if we're working with buyers to make sure our buyers are not overpaying for their house or making sure they're getting a fair deal. And so we do need to know how to pay or pull comps. Now, would anybody like to borrow a highlighter? I want to show you what I do. And if you will, let me just give you one. I'll need it back, but I want to show you how I do comps, and I do use a highlighter. You got one? Sweet. Okay. So when I get an address or a call or something like that, usually we're getting invited to go list a house. And so we need to do a little research. And a lot of times we don't even know the house, don't know the area. A lot of times we're doing the best we can to figure it out and pull the story together. And so this is a house in Lee Summit that I sold a few years ago. And backstory on this, just so you know, I had a VA buyer that was from out of state. He's actually a DEA agent and was moving in here from Washington. Met him through board duty at my other office at Keller Williams and Lee Summit. Met him off of board duty. And we hit it off, him and his wife and Caesar and I, and we just had a great time. But he was a VA buyer in 2021. Yep. 2021, when the market was just crazy and nobody wanted to accept VA offers. They thought they were hard. They thought the appraisal wouldn't appraise, these kind of things. So it was really tough for us to get, even though he was well approved, he had the money, he wanted to use his VA benefits. And so we were looking at all these houses, writing all these offers. We got one under contract, did the inspection. It was a pretty bad inspection, fell out of contract. It got to the point where he was almost like, hey, Brandi, if I don't find something in the next week, I'm probably just going to go sign a lease and rent for a while. I'm like, oh, please don't do that. We've been working so hard. We've been working so much. I've showed so many houses. I've written so many offers. Don't do that. And so I ended up we were just kind of stuck. And so I went to Facebook and I said, hey, Facebook, I need a house in Lee Summit, Olathe, like he had a few areas, a pre-approved buyer up to whatever his pre-approval limit was. Anyway, does anybody know of a house that's not on the market? I found a house. Somebody said, hey, so-and-so is getting ready to sell his house. So I'm like, hey, so-and-so, good to meet you. Turns out they were getting divorced. They were getting divorced, and it was one of those things where, and this will happen with divorces sometimes, is like, well, I don't want to use your realtor. Well, I'm not using your realtor. So here comes Brandi, neutral party, not connected to either side. and I had a pre-approved ready buyer. And so I was able to do I scheduled a one-time showing. The house wasn't even on the market, wasn't even for sale by owner yet. It was nothing. And I connected with them and they agreed to let me bring my buyers through to see if they even wanted the house. I asked them, what do you want for the house? Um, he told us, I think he told us, I want 440 for the house. It's like, okay, that's kind of in our price range. Can we come see it? And so I take my people out there. I got a one-time permission to show. There's a form to make sure I get paid. Because remember, sellers pay our commission. So you got to work it out with the seller that they're going to pay us. At least that's ideal, what you want. And so we did that. Like I literally took my little paperwork, which I explained it to him ahead of time, but I took it there. And before I would let the guy show the house, I said, can I see you in the kitchen? We signed it right there. He signed it right there. Then we were able to finish the tour and look at the house. So on that one-time permission to show, he told me the price and he told me he'd pay me whatever he paid me, 3%. Maybe he told me 4. It was more than that because anyway, whatever it was, I agreed to it. And then we showed the house. My people loved it and decided to move forward. One of the bumpier deals I've ever done, simply because divorces can be messy. My people were great. The divorcing couple had some challenges to go through. And so what I did was, if you look at this, what can we tell from this? This is the MLS listing that I put in there. You can see he listed it with me, or not with me. I wasn't the listing agent. What was my function? You can tell from this page. How did I act? How did I, what's the word? What was my listing agent capacity or transaction broker? And then if you see we're at the bottom, which would be the back, where it was said buyer agency, that also says transaction broker. What does that mean? What does that mean? I know this isn't with comps. I just filled out the paperwork. I didn't really represent the buyer or the seller. And so that's how I functioned on this. And so what else can we tell from this page here? They did a price reduction, I believe, after inspections, came down 10 grand. So it sold at 430. I did go ahead and put this in the MLS. I didn't have to, but I did so that I could get the stats for it for selling an off-market property. And that's why it says one-time showing right about the middle of the page. It wasn't really officially on the market. But like I said, I wanted the stats to show up under my name. Any questions about any of that? I know that's bonus material. Okay. So this is the house. And I love this house, by the way. I told him, hey, when you guys are done with it, let me know. It has a nice, beautiful pool. I know you can't tell because there's no picture here. And I know we're not supposed to put things in the MLS without a picture. But it was a one-time showing. I never had photos. And I mean, I guess I could have swung by there and took a picture of the house, which I could have done, but they didn't make me do that. So anyway, that is our listing. So let's say we're going to pull comps on this house. Let's say this gentleman calls me up and says, all right, Brandi, I'm ready to sell. I got to move. I'm being transferred. Which, by the way, DEA agents have cool stories to tell about how they shake down houses, and I don't know how all the stuff they do, but it was pretty cool. But he will be transferred again, and I know that he gets transferred every so many years. So let's say he calls me up and says, okay, Brandi, I'm ready to sell. What can I sell my house for? Because he bought it in 2021 for $430,000. That really doesn't tell me anything because that was 5 years ago. Okay, so here's what I start with. I usually have a scrap piece of paper. Oh, by the way, with your highlighter, grab a highlighter. I'm going to get you, I just typed this up this morning. These are the kinds of little stats or little pieces of info that I start with when the first thing I do is I get out a scrap piece of paper, and these are the things that I'm writing down. Yep. Obviously the address, that's going to go on there. And the subdivision. So on our MLS sheets, what's the subdivision? Saddlebrook. Okay. And I also highlight. So I don't really yes, I do jot it down, but I also highlight it on my MLS sheet. And I do print out the old MLS sheet. How many beds does it have? Bathrooms. 4.5. The square footage, 5,200, 5,241. The year it was built, 93. What floor plan do we have? Story and a half. Yep. Garages. Do we know that from here? Does it have a garage? It does. It says yes. It does have 3. It says that under the 1.5 stories. Any other features? One other thing I forgot to put on your the little note sheet would be basement. Tell me about the basement. What do we know from this old MLS sheet? Yep, it's finished in full. We don't care about the sump pump, but it's full and it's finished. And so I can tell from the above grade and below grade, there's a lot of house here. But so I highlight my sheet to look all those things we just talked about, I highlight it. Then as we get a little bit further down the road here in a minute, when I actually print out the actual comps and I do the same thing, I'm highlighting those things on the other sheets as well. So that's where the highlighter comes in. Okay, so any thoughts or questions so far? Anything you do at this point? Okay. Then I go to the MLS, well, which I should have already been in there because that's where I got the old listing. So let's do a residential quick search. All right, so the way I like to pull comps and the way I was taught and trained, and so this is how I always do it. So I like to stay, so our house is, wherever our house is, it's the center point, that's our subject property. Then we try to stay in the same neighborhood if we can. We try to stay within the same neighborhood, so or subdivision. So on this one, it would be Saddlebrook, but sometimes our neighborhoods are super tiny, or sometimes it's rural, and there's not even a neighborhood. But I picked one in a neighborhood to help us out today. So I'm going to search up Saddlebrook first and see if we can get enough comps that way. So the way we do that is I'm just going to go down here to subdivision. I'm going straight for it. Now, look at how many Saddlebrooks show up. Saddlebrook, Saddlebrook Farm, Saddlebrook 2 with an E, with no E, the Estates of Saddlebrook. Well, go back to the way it was printed on the sheet to make sure we get the right one. And it's Saddlebrook with the first one that comes up with no E on the end. Now, there are some places like my subdivision where I live in Stony Creek. So Stony Creek has it's a bigger subdivision, and there's like the villas of Stony Creek, Parkwood at Stony Creek. There's different sections within Stony Creek. We all know it just as Stony Creek. However, when I go to pull comps for my neighborhood, I have to go pick a couple different choices. And that's just because I live there. I know that. Sometimes we don't know that there's, I think Winterset is a lot like that in Lee Summit. There's different, you know what I mean? There's different kinds, 9 different versions of Winterset within the same subdivision, in my opinion. So as of right now, I've gotten 0 active listings in Saddlebrook, but when I'm pulling comps, I'm going to choose active. I'm going to choose pendings, show for backups, and even solds. And even when I choose all that, I still have 0 matches now. So then I start to go, okay, I need to I start small and I need to start to loosen some things up to pull some numbers in. So most often I erase the 180 and I do 365. So I go back a year because appraisers can go back a year on appraisal values. Now with my actives, pending, show for backups, and solds, I have 2 matches. So in Saddlebrook, so only 2 houses have sold in the neighborhood in the last year. Now I'll tell you, Saddlebrook's not that big. It's attached to another subdivision called the Paddock. And so Saddlebrook and Paddock, they all have horse names and horse things. And so, but you don't realize they're 2 different subdivisions. But you can. We totally can. Let's do that. And let's see because they can be kind of a resource for us because we know they've done some work. Hopefully they've done some studies. Maybe they kind of have a bead on the market, those agents. So I don't normally, but I don't think it's a bad idea. Just remember, to be a true comp, it needs to be a sold property. We can take clues and hints from actives and pendings and show for backups and even coming soon, but until it closes, an appraiser can't use it as a comp. So it's fine to use them because, but then, let's just see what we got here. So coming soon, Seattle Slough Drive, and these are 4 beds, 4.5 baths. We could just open them up. Let's open them up. Now I can tell right away, I'm already starting to look at the same criteria we just looked at. It's 4 beds, 4.5 baths, and we got 4 beds, 4.5 baths, so that's a match. However, this is all above grade square footage at 2368, which is a little smaller than what we got on the main floor, but they're below grade. Their basement's not finished. Oh, that's interesting because down here it says it is finished. Well, let's give Scott the benefit of the doubt that maybe he's not done finishing this. It's still coming soon because that could be too. And then photos and remarks coming soon. So that's that. Not a great comp for us, but we know it's going to be like if I were to list this house soon, this would be competition for us. At least it's another option out there that buyers have to choose from. Next one, this is also coming soon. 4 bed, 2.5 bath, 2,800 square feet. So the basement is partially finished, I would say, only 400 square feet finished. It is a 2-story. We got a 1.5 story. That's the other thing. We try to find apples to apples if we can. It's very difficult. Some of these neighborhoods, a lot of the houses are cookie cutter and you get a lot of the same houses. So, but sometimes we're going to have to do a little rough estimating. But so what do we think about this one? I know you don't know what our house looks like. You know what? I should probably pull it up. So if that ever happens, I like to see what the house looks like. If the MLS doesn't have any photos like ours doesn't, I'm just going to Google the address and see what Google says. You go in then across the street? Yep.
Go in your map instead of into the search result.
Okay. And then yeah, I know what you mean. Okay. Right?
Click on it, zoom in where you're at. You can actually zoom in a little further and it'll give you the address. It's about that.
Oh, I think my house is right here. Let me see. Yep, that's my house. There's no picture. Because I didn't put a picture in there.
Well, maybe one from previous.
Previous, yeah, for sure. So this is the house. This big tree is now gone, so you can actually see the house. Let's see, what else? I see what you're saying, Steve.
Done that with some of mine and gone back into the search history and picked some of the old MLS listings for that exact home just to see what it looks like. So I've done that with my buyers.
Yeah.
See if they've done any updates or any changes from old to new.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? They do. So when I look up the address, like Steve is saying, you can look up the address to see that this particular house has sold 4 times on the MLS. Yep. I printed the most recent one, which is happens to be the most expensive one. You can't take that, for granted, but let's look at number 3 when it sold for 300,000. There's the house when the tree was a little smaller and you could actually still see some of the house. They definitely have changed it. There's a whole pool back here and a fenced in backyard and all kinds of stuff.
An idea of the layout of the home is really the biggest thing. And it will let you know what they've done to update the home, if they've done anything or not.
This all looks the same. Last I knew, this is what it looks like. Even though this is, these were, by the way, heated floors, which is kind of weird. And it's an office with heated floors. I don't know.
But it's slate.
Yep.
Yeah, that's why.
Okay. Maybe. No, no, the garage is off the side. It's over the basement. I don't know. I could see that for sure. Now maybe I know they've done some updating, but I haven't been in the house for 5 years. But this is pretty much what it looked like when we bought it, minus the pool and the nice fence and there's a little gazebo out back now. Yep. Yeah. So that's our house. So sometimes I like to see at least what I'm looking at to see so therefore when I'm doing comps, I can say, does this house kind of match those? You know? And so, all right, let me go back. You can go back to your recent searches and you can go back to where we were. There we are. Go back to criteria. And I still have that's those 4 we had in mind. Okay, that's kind of where we took a jump off the trail. So this is still coming soon. Let's see, this one is sold. This one's sold, and remember, you can scroll all the way to the bottom to see when did it close. It closed in August of last year. So this one closed in August, and we can see that it's a 5.3.5, which has more bedrooms than we have. However, the square footage is at 2,470. Well, we have a lot more square footage. Now, does anybody know, is all square footage created equal? No, it's not. So hopefully you know that above ground square footage is more valuable or more expensive. You'll get more for the above ground square footage. So anything underground, you don't get dollar for dollar. It's not an equal match. I don't know exactly what it is. I don't know if there is a number out there, because every appraiser is going to do it a little differently. And that's the thing, guys. We're giving this our best opinion. And if we were to all go interview for the job, we might show up with a little bit different comps and a different price possibly for our seller. It's possible. Appraisers they definitely have a more, what's the word? Appraisers are definitely, this is what they do. They price houses all day long. That is their job. However, at the end of the day, the appraisal is an opinion. And so our best guess, we hope, lines up with their best guess. And of course, theirs is the one that will win, that trumps ours. However, at the end of the day, they're people just like us doing this work just like this. So that's something to always think about too. They're studying the same market we are. And so they do have a little more, they know what they like to give value to bathrooms and bedrooms and extra things. So this one has an extra bedroom, one less bathroom, but we're missing a whole, half the square footage that our house has. This is Matt Webb. Do you remember Matt Webb? Anybody come to the wealth building class? He came and taught that to us. So, and he sold that one. And I like to go down here and see what it originally listed for. He originally listed it right here. The original original listing price was $465. And I go up here and I see it sat on the market for 19 days and it finally sold at $452. So, but they dropped the price. Here's the other thing you can do. You can go and look at the history on these things to see that it was coming soon at $465. It listed at $465. They dropped the price to $449 and they finally sold it at $452. That's what happened. Sometimes I always wonder, I'm like, well, wait a minute. If it's pending at $449, why did it sell for $452? Sometimes, let me go back. Please don't take me all the way back, just back one page. Here. What am I doing? Listing, there we go. So when I look at that, I can come down here and sometimes you can see that it'll be in the concessions. Sometimes they will have given them 3,000 whatever in closing costs or something like that. Well, in this case, they didn't. So I always try to figure it out, see if I can. So this is a 1.5 story. That's what we got. That matches. I want to be careful how I say this. Would this be a comp for our house? You could probably find better. I agree with you. It could be a comp for our house if this is all we have. right? I'm with Christian. I think we can do better. So Christian, how would you do better? Well, let me go back to real quick before you answer that. Let me go back to this. And it says, but wait a minute, I only have 2 to look from. How would you do better?
You're only in the subdivision right now, so I probably open it up like elementary school.
Oh, okay. You do it by elementary school. Okay. Yeah. Let's look at the last one that came up in the neighborhood. This one's on Paddock Drive. It listed, well, we don't know. I know it listed it for 515. It sold for 532, but again, I don't know until I scroll to the bottom to see is that the true listing price or did they drop it? But it was only on the market 4 days. This is a 3.2.5, but it's a big house. It's got 4,500 square feet, so it's kind of up where we are as far as square footage goes. And so the upstairs or above grade is a little smaller than ours, but the below grade is a little bigger than ours. So do you see how we're like, okay, we get more credit for our upstairs because we got more on the above grade, but they have a bigger below grade. So we kind of just like, we're constantly making adjustment in our head. This one also has a full finished basement. Let's see. And it listed at 515. It sold FHA. Here's the concessions right here, $7,600. Sometimes they'll tell you what that was for. So they gave $7,600 in credit to the buyer for something. But sometimes when I'm going to pull the comps on this, I'm going to read through this. I'm going to read to see how does this compare to our house? Is this nicer than our house? Is it more updated than our house? That kind of thing. So again, and then you can also look at pictures if you want to. I won't click through all of them, but I believe this house, when I looked at it this morning, super great. Everything's lawn is well manicured. There we go. See, we're inside, and I can already tell you, unless my people, unless they have done some serious updates, this house is more updated than our subject. So I like to look at, we're comparing condition, updates, features, that kind of thing. All right, we don't need to look through all of them. We get the point. All right, so like Christian said, so 2 houses isn't enough comps. Do we have a certain number that we like to get? Jesse, how many comps do you like to pull? Like if you're going to go on a listing appointment and you like to kind of have a good idea of what you think the price should be, how many comps do you like to pull if you can get them to back up your 3, 4, or 5? Yeah. Minimum of 3. I agree with you. I'm kind of in that same, but how many do you use, Christian? Do you like to use comps?
Comps, yeah, I think that's a good number. I think if you're trying to determine like value for like listing, then you do want to know you're coming soon, so you do want to know your competition.
Competition.
Like 3, 4, 5 are active and pending and sold. So like I think it's Ben Kinney or someone says they want 5 of each. It's kind of hard to find that.
It is hard to find that.
But yeah, if I can get like 3 active, 3 pending, and 3 closed, that'd be good to like determine value. Okay, here's what your competition looks like. Here's what's selling, and here's like actually what things are closing for. Just give like a full scope.
I like it. That's actually pretty great. So that's why I should go back and tell you when we go back to that. I'm sorry, it's my criteria. When I go to my criteria, when I mention we click active, coming soon, pending, show for backups and sold, that's exactly why. We want to know what is our current competition? What are things listing for right now? I like coming soon. I don't always pull it in, but I actually do look at it, of course, to see what our coming competition would be. Pending, show for backups and sold, obviously, in my opinion, would be kind of the no-brainers because those are the ones that have contracts and have actually sold. If there is a pending or a show for backup that's really close to your house, it's like, oh, that would be a good comp, but I don't know what it's going to close for. Don't hesitate to pick up the phone and call the listing agent on that and say, how soon is your house closing? They're not going to tell you what it's under contract for, right? Yours do? Okay.
Or they'll say like,
Give you a hint. Go ahead and ask, see what they'll tell you. And then, so feel free to call them and ask them because, you could say, hey, we're getting ready to list a house, put one on the market. Just wanted to know what yours looks like a pretty good comp for us. And when does it close? And we would Hope they get a good price for it. Here's another thing that I always do before I even start. I should back up and tell you. And I say this at every class I teach on this would be get what your sellers are trying, what is the price your sellers have in mind? What do they want for their house? And I've said this, so if you've heard me say this, just listen again, would be when they say, well, I don't know, that's why I'm calling you, because I thought you would know. Well, absolutely. And I would love to look into that for you. I totally will. But I just was wondering, like, if you thought, if you had a number, and sometimes they're like, no, I don't. Then you press a little more and go, well, if you had to guess, what do you think your house is worth? I promise you, they have a number in mind. They have one. And it may be, I don't know what my house is worth, but I know what Bob and Shirley's house sold for. And I know what the house on the corner sold for. And I know, so that's kind of their number. And I know what Zillow says. Okay. And so these are good to know what their number is, because if their number is high, we're going to look for comps that maybe would justify that. And maybe we can get them their price, possibly. If their number is low, like I met with a seller not too long ago, and he's like, if I could get 200 for my house, I'd be great. I'm like, oh, this will be easy because I know his house will sell for more than that. But he's an older man and he's been in here a long time. He doesn't know what home values are. So that kind of, I'm gonna get to be the hero and surprise him. Like, well, I think you can get an extra 50 grand for your house or something like that. So, but it's good to know where they want to be on price. And then we kind of move to see, can we get them there? Can we justify that price? And have comps to back it up? Because we can list it at whatever they want, right? It's their house. They get to decide. But can we get a buyer for it? Because remember, you're getting hired to not just list the house, we're getting hired to sell the house. Anybody can list a house, not everybody can sell the house. And so I always tell them like, hey, sellers, you are hiring me to get this house sold. You're not hiring me just to waste your time, put my sign in your yard, and you're hiring me to get this house sold. And so that kind of brings it back down to, okay, you're right. We do want it sold, not just on the market. So back to here. So, all right, we found 2 solds. We have 2 coming soons. We do need to expand something. So Christian, you would go, I haven't done it that way before, but that's what you would do next, is you would go to the elementary schools.
Yeah, I've changed it a little bit since I feel like Springfield, that's really what we did all the time. I don't know why it's like not so much different, but yeah, we would go like just start with the smallest subdivision.
Well, Springfield's huge, right?
School, middle, high school. Changed a little bit when I get up here, so I still will open it up a little bit to
Gotcha.
school, and then I'll do like high school.
Okay. Well, see, that's why I love this, because we all do it a little differently. Here's what I would do, which that's not a bad idea. We just got to remember our houses, subject properties here. We go small with the subdivision. If we don't get enough comps, we got to spread out. It could be this, you could spread out a number of different ways. Steve, what's another way besides elementary school? How could we? By major roads. Okay. Okay. How would you do it, Jesse? If you search the subdivision, didn't get enough comps, you need to go out a little further, what might you do? Similar land. Okay, so if you're doing acreage, yep, those can be a little tricky. Here's another one that can be a little tricky. Earth contact houses. Now, I don't want to get too derailed too much, but if you're in a subdivision, there's only 1 or 2 earth contact houses, you may have to go to the whole county. Like I remember last earth contact I did in Cass County, I had to look through the whole county to find enough comps. So my point is we started small and then we go out as far as we need to. Steve does the map thing. One of the things I like to do is this map search right here. So it kind of does the radius search. If we plug in, first of all, I'm going to leave it. It just autofills at a quarter of a mile. I'm going to plug in my address of the subject property of 4317 Southeast Furlong. And so if I type enough, it will find it. Come on. Furlong, there it is. And once it pulls up, you got to click that. Did you mean this? Well, yes, I did. Okay, so I've changed, I left everything else the same. My active, coming soon, pending, show for backups and solds. And now I'm going a quarter of a mile radius from the house, and I still have the same 4. So then I click it up and let's go half a mile out. I still have the same 4. So then I can go out a mile. Seriously? Seriously. Oh, hold on. I forgot. I was like, that can't be right. That I got to take the neighborhood off. So let me go back. Let me push it back to where it was and clear out the neighborhood because it's doing all that, but it's still got that in the search criteria. So I got to pull that out. Okay, so now let me see, go out a half mile. I was like, oh my gosh. Right. That's why I was like, hold on, there's something wrong here.
291, that's what you're gonna look at on that house.
Well, let me do the quarter mile. It's the smallest of the circles. I did see that we got 6 matches. So when I go to results, I've got 2 more blue ones here that showed up. Now these are over in Winnebago. Well, that one is anyway, Lake Winnebago. Winnebago is a totally, I don't know that that would be a good comp for us. We can look at it, but it's Winnebago, like
That maybe.
maybe, yeah, Chippewa Lane.
That's, that's the extreme northeast corner.
See, I don't even know that. I guess I could look at the parcel map and see where we were. Okay, so maybe that could be a comp for us. Then here's Saddlebrook Farm. So remember this is what I was telling you. We got Saddlebrook and we got Saddlebrook Farm and we got, so this one pulled up, built in 2003. So it's 10 years newer than ours, a little smaller than us, but they sold it at 580. So I'll tell you, my guy didn't give me a price, but the price he sent me, is this right? Was 622. He sent me something that he found that said the value of his home was 622. So I'm trying to see, can I get him close to that? I already kind of think I can't, like based on the condition of his house, that kind of thing. However, I may be able to get him, closer. And remember, what did he pay for it? He paid 430 5 years ago.
Then he's got a pool.
He has a pool. Of Saddlebrook.
Oh. One of the map, it's 4116 Southeast Ave Drive.
So what are you doing here, Steve? When you say go into the map, what do you mean? This map?
Yep. It's go further north than the other one you were looking at.
Further north of this one?
Above that 532.
So I'm trying to figure out how do I, yeah, I think you're right. Let me go back. Oh, come back. Where do I get, oh, criteria, here we go. And then I can make my criteria half a mile. There we go. Now I can go to map. There we go.
What's that one in the very top corner?
This one?
Oh, other side.
This one?
That one.
Okay, let's peek at that.
That's what, I'm guessing that's what he saw. He said that number,
Okay,
which is a bigger house.
bigger house. Yep,
That's what he saw.
that is another thing that should have, see, and these people listed at 655 and sold it at 620. Because that's one thing that I don't know if y'all are seeing this, those of you that are listing houses. I think people are coming in with really high numbers. They think their house is worth so much more than it is what I'm finding. And so I have to find ways to, you know. Let's see, does it say that this one has a pool? I could probably look at the pictures. They have a second kitchen, in-law quarters in the lower level. Let me go up here.
And it's double the lot.
Oh, there it is. Right here.
Still the most comparable property we've seen, probably. Big house, wooden pool, obviously depending on the condition and everything.
Okay, so let's see. It could be a comp. We could, we can use it and we'll just make adjustments.
Yeah.
Because like I said, we're not going to find the exact.
Yeah.
So-
On the ceiling of what they think it could be, or where I think it could be, and then the lowest where I think it should be. And kind of work to the middle of where I think it really would be.
Yeah. Super cute. What the heck is that? Oh, the bathroom. Okay. I was wanting to see the downstairs. Get to the downstairs. Oh, there we go. That's what they're calling a second kitchen. Well, it does have a stove and a sink.
Yeah. It's a whole.
Holy cow. Look at all that stuff. So yeah, somebody it could be that one of those multi-generational living, which are pretty
In that area.
pretty nice. Okay, so this one does have a pool. All right, this could be a comp for us, but this is bigger than ours and it's sold at 620. So that kind of tells us we're not going to quite get to 620. What's our gut kind of telling us after what we've seen? Do we have a range yet? It's okay if we don't.
I'd 65 to 600 is an extreme.
Here's what I can't do from this computer right here. What I would do is when I do find a comp, even if it's at the top comp, I'm going to print this out. I'm going to print this. I don't have this isn't connected to our printer, so I can't do that. So let's see. Let me do 4116. This is a terrible color. Hold on. I'll write it down. But normally I would print these out and I would lay them out side by side by side by side like this and look at them. 4116 Southeast Paddock. And it is for 620 sold. Okay. Let's see what else we got. There was one more comp, or no, actually I forgot we were in the map view. We were in the map. So when you, oh, come back. This is what I meant to do. When you hover over the little houses, you can see the price in the beds and baths. And that's kind of cool. And see if one kind of, see, I don't, if there's a 435, I don't know that I want, if I'm trying to get them up closer to 6, then I don't want to really look at that one. If there's enough other ones, I saw one right here for 4 or 635 on Hackamore Drive. Hold on. Why can't I click on this one? Oh, there it is, because it didn't have the MLS listing in it. There's what? I'm sorry? Okay. So this is a reverse and a 1.5 story, which, okay. This one's a little smaller at 635. Again, okay, let me go back. So however we gotta, you understand we start small and then we can go bigger. What you got, Trish? What are you thinking? Yeah. Yeah.
The top one off and the lower one off. So somewhere in the middle is going to be your comp. And also I asked the buyer to put on, or the seller to put on buyer's glasses and said, if you had a choice between buying this comp and your property, which one are you gonna pick for the exact same dollar?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Always try to get them the money that they want. Sometimes it's unrealistic.
Sometimes it absolutely is. And sometimes we can't get them there. Right. Completely. Completely. Sometimes what I like to do is like, all right, your price is at 622. Here's what 622 houses look like. Do you think that's what our house looks like? You notice they got granite countertops, they've been updated, you know. And they're like, well, okay, yeah, you're right. But usually they point something out. Yeah, but ours has got, you know, they'll pick some random feature, you know. Then you can maybe show them houses where, because after we've done our homework, we kind of have a range that we feel like the house could sell in. We got to help them see, because again, our job is to sell the house. We need to get them to see that this range is where they need to be. Now, I've heard other theories around here, and you get to decide what your theory is. I've heard some people say, I don't want to take an overpriced listing because I don't want to put my sign with my name in the yard on a listing that doesn't sell, that just sits. And I kind of feel like that. But then I hear other people say, hey, just get hired. Take the listing at whatever you got to take it at, and then you can work on calming down. I could see that. I mean, I could see that too if your seller will agree to cooperate. If they don't want to come down, if it all depends on the conversation you have there. Yeah, what Trish?
And I feel that your house is gonna fall in this range,
Yes.
and I make them sign it.
Oh, okay.
So that they know from day one, this is the recommended price.
That you recommended. Yep.
And then I basically reduction. You can try it a little bit higher. If you try too much higher, you're going to scare away buyers and you're not gonna be shown.
Mm-hmm.
So you know, you don't wanna go too high.
Right.
So if you can get them in that price range, it will be a little bit high. Sometimes you can be like, in 2 weeks, we drop it $1,000. In 4 weeks, it's good.
Yeah. You can totally do that. You can totally do that. If you set the stage and set those expectations at the listing table when you're first taking the listing, I think that's your best chance. If you take an overpriced listing and you tell them, I'll give it my best shot, we're gonna, see what happens, kind of, and you don't prep them that we're probably too high, then yeah, you're gonna have a hard time. It's too late to have that conversation later. One thing I didn't realize, I'm watching the time. I want to make sure we stay on time. One other thing. Did I not bring it? I must have left it on my desk. Okay, no, I didn't. So another thing I do like to do in the midst of pulling these, by the way, and I will print these out, make adjustments, and kind of see if I can get us to a price. I'm not done yet, but other thing I like to do also in this process is I like to see what are they finding on Zillow. Zillow has it at 618. So I printed that there at 618 from Zillow. The Zestimate. Realtor.com says it's 573. So I don't know if this is helpful or not, but this is what they're seeing, right? The tax records, which I also do print that, they give us a range at Realist Tax. They give us a range of 570. Well, the real AVM of 573, but the range was 538 to 607. That's a big range. So that's not helpful. And then RPR. Does anybody ever use RPR? Do we know how to use RPR? RPR is another website that pulls reports together, helps with CMAs, whatnot. That is back here when you're here on the login page. RPR is this one right here. And when you go there, it'll pull reports together for you, and we're not signed in. Okay. I don't know why it's not signed in. You should be signed in with your, I'm signed in under Caesar, that's why. I don't remember my password. But you could go to RPR and search up the address and it will give you a valuation on this one. 573 is also what it gives us for. So I've got 618, 573, 550, 565, and 573. So, and if I had, forgive me guys, I didn't know how to, I didn't want to give you a bunch of paper but that probably would have been best just to look at these side by side. But based on kind of what we have, what would a good range be? I know we didn't do a full extensive exhaustive search, and if you want, we can go back and look at more houses because there's plenty to choose from that list, from that map. I like the map, Steve. I'm probably going to start using that more often. And here's the deal. When you see a map like this and you see a big major road going through the middle of it, try to stay on your side of the road if you can, because appraisers do that kind of stuff. Now, I mean, usually big major roads are kind of dividing lines. Not always, but we try to say if we can find enough comps on this side of 291, then we would like to do that. Let's see. Any other thoughts? What do you guys do? What do you guys consider? Yes, Lisa?
I'm looking at all of this, I usually can narrow it down to a decent range, but where I completely get mentally stuck in when I start trying to put all of them in front of me and I'm doing adjustments. I'm monitoring adjustments. I'm adding to them, subtracting, is, because my brain wants to work the opposite.
Yeah.
And, or what to add for pool and what to be done for this, you know.
So the big, the big
That's
thing,
right.
the biggest thing that should work out with the Justin thing, is a lot of, so, actually, typical like this. If a lot of homes in the neighborhood have a pool and yours doesn't, that's a negative. You know, same thing, if your neighborhood doesn't have a pool and you have one, it's not as much of a positive as you think.
And pools are, let's talk about that for a second.
Pools are a really wonky thing.
They can be, because some people love pools and they would give a lot of value to a pool, and some people hate them. And they're like, I don't even want to look at a house if it's got a pool on it. I can tell you, like, if you're working with somebody and they put the pool in and they say, hey, I put this $80,000 pool in, and they're expecting to get $80,000 worth of value back out of it. They're not. I maybe half, I would say 20 to 25. And then you're going to have people that are just like, hey, I don't even want to look at it. Pools. You notice these people sometimes, and I'm a pool person. I love the pools. I need a pool, so I got me a pool. But so I get it. But then so I have to think about that. If we ever go to sell, I'm like, okay, first of all, I want to sell that thing when it's summer. My pool is open. It looks way better. And then and just realize you're not going to get the money back out of it that you put into it. Same thing with solar panels. That's the other thing that people are like, well, I got solar panels. They're so great. I paid 50 grand for them. Sorry, well, probably worth maybe 15, of value, of actual value that you can jack the price up on. But so I'm with you, Lisa. And some people are probably more exact, like, well, I know a bathroom is worth this much, and a extra bedroom is worth this much, and an office is worth this much. I don't have all that.
You don't adjust your house if you're looking at, you adjust the other ones, positive or negative, based on what they have in there. That product.
Yeah. But I do take my pen and I write up these papers. So if I have, here's my subject property, and then here's the next comp, and then the next comp, and I've highlighted all the things and all the things. And then I'll say, okay, this house is smaller than ours. This one's bigger than ours. This one's older than ours. This one's younger than ours. This one's, I kind of make the notes to myself. So I don't have, and I don't know that Lonnie does, and I don't know that, I'm trying to think I think Jake was just talking to me about a house today, and he's like, this one has an extra bedroom. So I think that's an extra $5,000. Now the bedroom was in the basement.
Yeah.
See, I don't feel comfortable teaching that because, number one, there's so many different criteria. Not every bedroom is worth the same. That bedroom in Lee Summit is going to be different than the same bedroom in downtown KC, different than. So it's hard. Like, this is so much gray area. And a lot of people want black and white. They want to know, well, what's the right thing to do?
You guys like so I don't even use adjustments. I don't think I ever have. Do you guys commonly almost always use adjustments when like running comps?
I do, so I didn't know if we had to, if we do, common.
You don't have to, a lot of people, some people do, some people don't.
I went through and did a practice using my house through the MLS CMAs, and they have all the places where you have to put in the adjustment. And when I put in what I got for the adjustment, I came out way higher than what I believe my house was.
See, I don't even do that. I don't.
So you don't have.
You don't have to.
Oh.
Because I feel like there's probably some people that really geek out on all the appraisal type stuff. I don't. I don't. I literally get their number. What do they want? See if I can get them there with some good comps. I don't fudge them too much. I don't try to, I'm not trying to sell them on something that I don't think they can get.
Box the high and the low.
I do too.
And I kind of adjust like what the highest house looks like and the lowest house looks like, and see where they fall in that middle ground somewhere, and say, this is where it looks like.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah.
I haven't done a listing meeting yet, and I didn't know if I would
if it was commonplace to go in with all of these numbers and adjustments, and so if not, I'm
No,
really
it's,
good with that.
Yeah.
it's completely normal. Like I just had a discussion.
The difference,
Okay.
the only time you're ever gonna have a problem like that is if your client is an analytical person. And then they wanna know
Well,
all
then
the
it's
numbers.
subjective to begin with. So.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And a lot of times sellers think that they have the best house on the block. They think they have the biggest one. Like they'll say, hey, that house down there sold for $650. And our house is bigger than theirs. Okay, well, let's look at what they have. And then we'll start looking into it and go, do you see this? Do you see that? Like everything inside is brand new. Do you see that it's 15 years older or newer than your house? You can start to kind of very carefully, very tenderly.
Yeah, I always tell them, like, you brought me in to tell you the truth, whether you want to hear it or not. I'm gonna tell you what you may or may not want to hear, but this is how it is going to play out. And this is kind of your range, if you want to sell, if you don't, then I.
This,
I had an
yeah.
hour-long discussion with my, investor yesterday about an extra bedroom and an extra bathroom in a basement in Kansas City. Like, it's useless. I'm like, don't waste your money in inner city Kansas City to add a bedroom in a basement. It's not worth the extra framing and time to put it in. It's not the return you're wanting.
So that is definitely something that you have to. I approach him saying, hey, I've done some work. I've done some homework. This is what I believe.
Yeah.
That I have found that we can get your house listed and sold for in this. And I always bring a range. I never bring a price, right? Bring a range, not just a price. Then I always kind of leave room and say, hey, unless you know of some other houses that could be good comps too. I make it a team effort. Like, hey, let's put our heads together to see what we can make it, as Lonnie would say, teamify it and go, hey, we're in this together. Let's study this homework. And then honestly, they're trusting you and your guidance and what you found. Now they may have another house here or there, and then you'll have to go, well, here's why I think that one didn't show up in my search.
And if you know all the work you've done,
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, they're gonna go.
And they probably are more likely to respond to conversation. I don't want to narrow somebody into numbers when I really don't have an objective way to explain how I came up with those numbers.
Yeah,
Right.
I just don't die on a hill of numbers.
Yeah.
It's like I'm presenting the information.
Yeah.
And the market's gonna determine the price. I am a
Correct.
very analytical person, so I wouldn't typically be someone who would lean towards those like adjustments. But one, I know that's like an exact science, but it's like, hey, here's the range. Like I know 620 is our absolute cap. Like I would not recommend going over 620. It's a larger lot, may have nicer finishes, it's 1,000 square feet more. So even a crazy buyer, 620 is gonna be their max. So you like present them this range and then it says, hey, we're gonna present it at some range. Then we're talking about like a plan B. Days on market is average 30 to 45 days on market. So if we go 3 weeks and we don't have the showings that we're looking for, we're talking about plan B, like what's our price reduction? Like you're not falling on the sword at all of like, you're not gonna pin me to a number. And I'm saying you're gonna sell at this price. Like you're pushing everything, like the market is gonna tell you what the price is. We're trying to attract attention from buyers. But you're like, hey, I'm not, it's all the market. It's all about how the market responds to it.
And here's the other thing. We also just need to get in the ballpark. Your range needs to be near the ballpark of where we can actually attract a buyer, because here's the thing, if you're so overpriced, people may come look at you at your house. They may maybe come take a look. But then they don't offer because they don't want to offend. A lot of times sellers will go, well, they can just make an offer. Buyers don't want, if it's too high, they won't do that. So we just got to get in a range. Let's say we do go on the market at 620. Maybe we get an offer at 600. Maybe not. Maybe not. I honestly think my gut would tell me on this house. And again, without having sat down with all the sheets and all the things. And honestly, it takes me, if I'm do some good comps, it takes me a good hour. I can't do them really any faster than that. To look at all the things and all the places and feel like I've got a good grasp of this house and I actually know this house. The harder ones are the ones you've never been. Let's say you get called to go list a house in Lenexa, Kansas or Shawnee Mission. Okay, I've sold a couple houses over there, but I don't know the main areas and the neighborhoods and the thing. I'm gonna go, so it's gonna take me a little bit to research. That's true.
And their house,
Yeah.
go to that point without ever.
So that's why I think it's good to have a wide range when you start. When you start, and then when you go put eyeballs on it, and that's always a way to get in the house also is to get. For sure. Now that's a great way to get in the house. And if you can get in the house, your chances of getting that listing go up.
Yeah, my range always starts about $100,000.
Somewhere between 3 and 600, I can sell your house.
Well, but that's the
Yes,
worst. Nowadays, I mean, it really makes a huge difference on how the inside is finished.
it is. It is. It really is. And so, you just got to do the best you can. And when you get in there, I have taken comps to a listing appointment that I can't use. When I get into the house, I'm like, psh, scrap those. This isn't that. I get in there and it's either in worse condition than what I thought, or it's in better condition than I thought, and go, oh, we actually could have used those better comps. And so, it depends on where you're at, where they're at with the process. If they still have some work to do, like I did that the other day, not the other day, it was last month. Went on a listing appointment. I thought the house would be a little lower. I got in there. I'm like, oh, you guys have really done some cool things with the house. Like they said, they've changed out some flooring. They kind of talked it down a little bit. And I got out there. I'm like, this is actually really nice. Okay, don't look at my numbers because you won't hire me at the numbers I brought. So let me, you know what? Let's look at some other numbers. And I was able to pivot through there, and they're past clients too. So
Say they go visit the house and then go back and do comps, but that doesn't seem like reality.
most people, yeah, that's
That
not what
doesn't
I've
seem
found.
that's how.
Now, sometimes it depends on where they're at in their timeline. Like if they're going to sell in the fall, and you might be able to get in there maybe and take a look at it.
I take two sets of I usually take two sets of numbers. I'll take what I think, like what they've told me in like their description. I'll take what they've told me, but I'll take the best case scenario and worst case scenario on my ranges. And then kind of, if it's one or the other, then I've got prepared. If it's somewhere in the middle, then I'm kind of prepared on the fly. That's why it usually takes me an hour to do those
Yeah.
kind of things.
It takes me at least an hour to do comps, at least. I can't rush them, and because I don't feel confident if I go faster than that. So on this house, if I were like, I have to go back to him and tell him, do I think 6'2"? Is this for real? Probably not. Probably not 622. Unless he's done some. I might ask him like, well, what? Tell me about the upgrades. Tell me what have you done with the house since I saw it last. Chances are they might have done some things that I'm not aware of. Because people do actually work on their house without telling me. But I'll see if I can get more information out of him and see where he's at with that. Because I think if I get, if the price were right, he'd probably sell right now. The house is actually vacant. And he's coming back. Like he's temporarily here and he's coming back. So anyway, I'm going to follow up. And I'm thinking, just based on what we've done here, I'm thinking if I were to give him a range, my gut would tell me we're like 580 to 600 based on what I know of the house, based on the updates, the finishes, or the lack of updates, I should say. The forest green tile in the bathroom and the dark wood and dark green, hunter green, like very 1993, honestly. Some of the bathrooms and the finishes and features. That would be the range I might recommend. What do y'all think? Higher, lower? 575 to 6?
So,
Okay. And then usually what I find is people will go towards the higher range. Like maybe they don't go to the highest, but they'll pick to middle to high is what I find. If you give people kind of a range, and like I've said before, this is a little trick I use, that if I say, hey, we've got one at 620, we've got this one at 580, and I'm going to show them examples. We have one at 565, and then we have one at 540. And I'm, picking these comps, and then you can draw a box around it and go, based on what we've seen, based on these are the kind of our comps we have, where do you think you should list your price? Or where do you think you would like to list your house? They're usually going to pick right about here. That's usually what they're going to pick. And so it's like this subconscious thing that they're not going to go outside the box. And so anyway, I picked that up from a bold coach one time, and I would list that house for 580. I would feel good about that. Or 590, I would do that. I would take that listing. And Christian was right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's about the last one, so.
Well, that's the cool thing. The market will speak. The market will tell us. And the market is kind of weird. Some houses that I think would have sold real quick are sitting. And then other houses that I thought, good luck. Oh my gosh, multiple offers.
That's the weird. That's that weird price point right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now I will say with the pool and whatnot, and if they get the pool open and get that backyard looking good and get some good pictures, um, we probably could go up to 600.
Well, I don't die on, I guess, good. It's like, I could feel really good about it and then it doesn't get the going, so you're just deferring to the market all the time. That's why the conversation with them on like motivation timeline is more important than the comps, because the comps that was the market.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know like what will move it, if interest rates just went up with everything that's going on with Iran and everything. So like, we have an idea of what our competition is going to look like. We have an idea what the market was. I can't tell you what the next 30 days are going to look
We
like.
don't know.
Just try to put it obviously in a ballpark, and then you're like, here's how we're going to work through it. If you're working through like dying on the hill of a certain price, if you don't get that exact number, you just kind of back yourself in.
Well, there's sellers that will say, hey, I don't want to take less than 600 for this house. And there are sellers that would say that. Okay, well, let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. I would take it. Take the listing, see what happens, and just know that you might not sell it if he really or they won't take under 600. Okay. There are some people that I've had to say, hey, like their number is so high, but I know them or I know them enough to say, hey, if we don't at least try your number and maybe we price it where I think it should be priced and we sell it real quick, they're going to think we left money on the table. And so sometimes I'm like, hey, I know you have to sleep you have to sleep at night. And I want you to know you gave it every best chance you can. So let's go on the market at your price. Let's see what happens. And I did that one time, and it was an earth contact house over here in Skyview. Earth contact, but it was a story and a half. Those are kind of rare. So it's, earth contact, right, built into the side of but it also had an upstairs. So that was kind of interesting. So there's no comps like that over there. So long story short, the roof was shot. I think there were 6 different kinds of flooring in the house. Every room had a different color of carpet. Like it was bright red sink, but it was really, really faded. Like weirdo things. And I'm like, this house, I literally thought we're in the low, maybe upper 300s, low 400s is what I was thinking. They wanted 495. I was like, okay. 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 So let's go on the market at your price. It was one of those things. And I'm like, this is like a complete renovation needing to happen. Anyway, it was on 2 acres in Skyview. So I was like, all right, let's do your price. Don't you know, we had 4 offers like the first weekend at list price, or I'm like, oh my gosh, do I even know what I'm talking about right now? That was one I had to go into all of Cass County to find earth contacts to comp it with and do some adjustments and then really sell this piece of turd house. I hate to be like that, but it needed a full roof. Like it needed new HVAC. I was like shocked. I think what saved us, people wanted the land. There was a pond. It was a big house. Anyway, without getting into all of it, we got a VA buyer. And actually, this was my first time. We got a buyer it was contingent. Couldn't get their house under contract. We had 3 offers come in on the first weekend. One was VA, and we're like, guys, the roof, it probably won't pass the inspection on a VA. So we went with this contingent buyer. They couldn't get their house under contract. So what did the VA people come back and do? They brought us a great offer the second time. So they sent their offer back through, right? My people were like, okay, maybe we could actually work with this buyer, even though we're under contract with these contingent buyers. So we did the whole kick out clause. We told the first buyers, you have 48 hours to get your house under contract or you get kicked out. So they got kicked out. Now we've pivoted. Now we're working with the VA buyers at list price, $495. And I'm like, hey, people, I don't know if it's going to appraise. I don't know if that roof is going to pass, all the things, right? I meet the appraiser. Because I got to sell this house to that appraiser. The appraiser was 85 years old. I promise, 85. He came hobbling up with his knee pads on, and you could tell he had done this. He had his belt bag, like he was ready. Sweet man, talked way too much, but that's okay. I was here for it, right? Making friends. Then he leaves, he gets the job done. The appraisal doesn't come back. There's a timeline. They get like 10 days or whatever to get the report back. The appraisal didn't come back, and it wouldn't come back. And we're like, check on the guy. Maybe he's unwell. Maybe he died. Maybe, like, does somebody know where he's at? Like, seriously, why is this report? We're ready to close. We need this appraisal to come back. Wouldn't come back. We had to get the buyer to escalate it through the VA to track the guy down. The day before closing, don't you know that appraisal came back at value? No, $1,000 higher at 496. And I'm like, what? So what I think happened, I'm no way to prove this. I think the guy lost the report, lost his notes, lost track of time, lost something, and he was in trouble if he didn't get something thrown together. So I think he threw something together. Here you go. It appraises, we close. Yay. And I'm so,
A different number besides contract price, which shows that he like thought about.
probably, yes. And I'm like, what in the world? So we're all sitting there scratching our head and like, good luck. I mean, it's almost one of those things you tell the buyer, like, yay, congratulations, or knowing that they're going to have to put a roof. I don't, whatever. Anyway, all that to say, now that screwed the comp so much in that neighborhood that I still to this day get calls going, how did you get that price? How did you get that price? I'm like, I think there's something with the appraisal. I don't know. Anyway, all that to say, and then Lonnie's even told me, he's like, Brandi, your house over here has really kind of screwed me up. Now people think that that's what everything is going for in this neighborhood. Anyway, all that to say, but I sat at that table telling them I didn't think they could get their price. And guess what? They got their price. So those things happen. Those things happen. And it worked out for them. I mean, the buyers were even happy about it too. So it worked out. But all that to say, there's a lot of, and as I'm coaching new agents, a lot of people like to know the rules of real estate. Tell me the rules. Tell me how to play this game. What are the black and the white things? And I'm realizing real estate's almost all gray. Yes, there's some rules, there's some contracts, but there's always workarounds, right? And so pricing is a very, very gray area as far as like, I don't think if we all comped out the same house, I bet we'd get honestly pretty different numbers. So all we do is the best we can do, let the market speak, make it a team effort, let your buyer, your sellers know, hey, we're in this together. Let's have a plan. If it doesn't sell for your price, let's have a plan like y'all said. Any other thoughts or questions as we wrap up?
I think there's two properties we compliment.
Yeah.
And my clients are people telling him, including other agents, you are never going to get this price for this house. And I'm like, you know what? What's your agent?
There you go. Love it.
Contractor,
Yeah, you did. Oh, didn't you sell like the highest priced house in that one neighborhood in Belvedere?
Yeah, we're still only in the 200,000.
Yeah.
Range, but yeah, do what you do and trust yourself.
Yeah.
Also, like you see a lot of houses, so be the buyer. So if you're, imagine you're the buyer for that house, and you're like, all right, if I'm needing like a mega house that I'm looking for with a pool, like would I